Trap. That's right, folks. This is the latest film from auteur director M. Night Shyamalan. And it's a really fun way to kick off the August film season, isn't it? It's cool. I know he's kind of a, polarizing filmmaker. It's a very interesting career and a very interesting guy to talk about. And I don't know how in depth we've gone before on M. Night Shyamalan. I talked about like a couple of his films before. I like him. I think he's a very interesting filmmaker. He knew exactly what he was doing almost every time he's made a film. Couple of big misses, but he is consistent, especially in his current arc. He's very consistent. I think like since Split to today, he has just been like, I don't need a lot of money. I'll finance a lot of it myself. I'll get actors I want to work with who are willing to commit to my very specific brand. And I'll just pump out a mid-budget thriller, horror film, just something different. Something that is just exactly what cinemas need, even if the audience isn't aware that it needs it. And that's what Trap is. Trap falls into that category perfectly. A mid-budget, an actor who kind of needs a resurgence, a story that is so specific to film that you could do something fun with it, and the classic M. Night Shyamalan approach. It's just going to be for a specific type of person, or it's going to be for nobody. And that happens. That's a lot of movies, but this one you can just feel it, where there's going to be those who are like, this is actually really smart and brilliant, and those who just go like, this is dumb, why is this anything to anybody? And that's kind of where M. Night shines. He's really good at just presenting that. And I am a fan of his work, and I do like the stuff he does, and I do like this movie. Now, will I sit here and tell you it's going to blow your mind? I don't think so. It is just a consistently fine movie. Like, it gets its job done, it gets its point across pretty well, and that's kind of cool. But the specific tones it is playing with, the things it is doing, they work for me, because you can tell everyone involved in this is definitely aware of the film they're making. We're not supposed to go into this thinking it's going to be genius. It's going to be silly and cheesy, and it is so aware of how silly and cheesy it can be that it just makes it feel a little more special and earnest. And that's the other thing I just find absolutely fantastic about this. It's such an earnest film. It is so aware of itself and knows like, hey, we're not going to be competing with the other big movie that's coming out, in the next few weeks or the week before us. We're here, we're having a good time, we're enjoying a concert. That's what this movie's about. We are introduced to Cooper Adams, played by Josh Hartnett. More on him in a minute here. He is a father taking his daughter to see a concert for her favorite singer, played by Salika, who is the real-life daughter of M. Night Shyamalan. And what he doesn't know until later on is that the entire concert is a coup, a sting, a setup, a trap, if you will, to catch this serial killer named the Butcher. He's this nut job who chops up people all throughout the city. We know that it's him, and it's him trying to evade capture in a concert. That premise alone, that's brilliant. That is just like a really solid idea. And M. Night's perfect for that, because you can do a lot of cool visuals. You can play with space really well. He's one of those filmmakers that's really good at like tight spaces and maintaining like a location. So that's really cool. And if you know nothing about this film, I'm not going to go deep into the plot or spoilers or anything. But there is more to this than what the marketing lets on. And it goes into another direction after what the marketing tells you it's going to be. And that direction could be more polarizing than other parts of the film. I thought it was fine. Like, I know we had to go there, and then it kept, like, amping and, like, just going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger for a lot of it. And you're like, this is really weird. But it's working, and when the specific things work, that's pretty cool to see. It feels very modern in what it's doing there. He's also a very modern filmmaker, and I think that's because he's definitely, like, obsessed with his kids. And his kids can tell him like what's cool and what's not. So doing something like, I think this movie coming out particularly in an era after like the Eras tour is so big, just makes it a little more special. And he definitely feels like, yeah, I love my daughter. I'll just make a movie where she's in it and she gets to perform songs that she wrote. That's kind of cool. It's a cool thing to see. So you dig that. It is very aware of its tone, like I already said. It is really good at using its spaces. He shot this on 35mm, which is what he shoots a lot of his stuff on. And it just has a really nice feel to it. Like, it looks nice and decent and quiet, and it just knows what it's doing. It's so competent, and that's the other thing. There's a specific style to a Shyamalan feature, and that style, it's not for everybody, especially when it comes to the dialogue he writes. But if you know what you're in for, and you should know what you're in for if you've seen any of his other movies, it's fun, and it's cool, and it is doing something no other film's doing. We should appreciate and admire that we have a director who's willing to do these things, because you could argue that a lot of them would want more money to do this. He's like, no, I'm fine. Just give me 30 million and I can pump this out. That's a modest budget for something like this. We have a real concert we're filming at. We go to real big locations. We're filming in like a huge stadium. And he's like, yeah, I don't need anything else. Like, I'll make it work with like my camera and my crew and the people I trust to do this. And that's very cool to see. He just knows what he's doing. And if you don't like it, then don't watch it. And if you do like it, which I think a lot of people are gonna, then enjoy it. Just go for this ride it's taking you on, because it is interesting and weird and different. And I think it's kind of cool. This is a Josh Hartnett starring vehicle. It has been a minute since Josh Hartnett got to lead a thing. I'm all in on him. I love Josh Hartnett. I've talked about that numerous times on this channel. He's one of my guys, somebody I will follow his career immensely. I think he's fantastic and so interesting, and has never in this current state of his career been given a chance to prove himself like this. We're coming off of Josh Hartnett doing Oppenheimer, and you're like, hey, this guy's popping. What's his next thing? He's doing an M. Night Shyamalan movie where he's leading. Let's see what it is. Totally different energy. I love what he's doing here. It is hard to do the sincere, cheesy, over-the-top girl dad, cringy energy authentically. It could come across as too dumb or stupid and just not work, but he nails it because he knows he has to be over charismatic in the beginning, so when we see the turn with him later, when he suddenly is full-on serial killer, you buy it. This is a guy who's putting on a facade the entire time. At any moment he could crack. Half of this movie is just close-up shots at Hartnett just looking at stuff. It's a very voyeuristic movie of a guy watching everything around him, being absolutely aware of his surroundings. And that's awesome, and he does a good job with that. He's never been a guy where I was like, oh man, is he a good face actor? I've never really thought that about him. But you watch this, you see the way he moves his face, he twitches his eyes, he twitches his mouth, the way he is so aware of every single facial expression he's making, the way he changes his voice in every single thing he's doing. That is hard to do. You know, I was trying to think of other contemporaries of his, of that generation even, that do that could really earnestly pull off the, I'm a goofy dad who's trying to give his daughter a good time, who can, you know, sleazeball and charisma his way through massive events, to, I am literally Jeffrey Dahmer now. And I only had a couple of names come up. It's a lot like James McAvoy doing Split. We're like, oh, this is the range that this guy could give? That's incredible. It's very like Chris Hemsworth doing Dementis in Furiosa, where you're like, we've wanted to see this from you for a while. You're delivering on that. Those are like the big comparisons I could think of. I don't know anyone else that could do it as authentically as him, because you just buy it. He is so goofy, but scary. And that's a hard balance to strike in a lot of stuff. And the young lady that plays his daughter, I think it's Ariel Donahue, she does fine. I think that is a role that is hard to write when you're a 50-year-old man. And you do it fine. I think it helps that your daughter is like a singer and performer, so you kind of know how to do that. And look, Salika, I'm not too familiar with her acting, if she has any before this, but you could tell she's a performer. She knows how to work a stage. Maybe when it gets intimate, you can see the faults in her acting, but I'm also definitely aware that this is a movie about a dad trying to show his kids that he loves them. That is both the case for Hartnett's character, that is the case for M. Night Shyamalan. So am I going to be upset that the guy who's making a movie for his daughter puts his daughter in a starring role, and maybe she doesn't have like the perfect physicality or performance there? Not at all. I'd rather he do that than get someone I don't want to see on screen. I think that's really cool. She's fun. Lady Raven is a really good name, a really good stage name. Kid Cudi shows up for a minute playing a guy called The Thinker, and you're like, this is a great one-scene performance. It's kind of impressive. And then Alison Pill, I won't get into much of what her role is. It's incredible. Like, she just delivers on what she has to do. And the dialogue, as I've said, it might be hard to handle if you don't accept what we're doing. This is a film that knows it's a movie. M. Night Shyamalan makes movies that are aware that they are movies. They're going to talk like they're in a movie, like we have to have certain things happen. We're not going for naturalistic here. Everything is just perfectly planned to the specific beat. Every side character, every side performance that shows up is perfectly choreographed to this beat. You are going to smile throughout the concert segments, and when it goes into something different, and it will, you're going to be like, oh man, what are we doing? It's just going to switch in your head like something else is happening now. And that's an intense thing to see happen. It is an impressive film. It is competent. It is beautiful to look at. It's got a really good lead performance from Hartnett, who needed to show you he could do this. I hope he gets more work after this. He deserves it because he's so incredible. It is a fantastic film. So interesting, and something that you're just going to sit there with, just pondering what you're doing, even if it's not in like a good way, even if you're just against everything going on screen. You're not going to see anything else like this year that is just so deliberate in this type of execution. This is something I don't know how often we get anymore, where you have an auteur who is so successful so young just know his new rhythms and not like, I need everything to come to me to make this project. He just needs a little bit of money, a little bit of like duct tape and some crazy glue, and he can make something that's a solid 3 out of 5 stars. I think it's better than that, but if that's the best you got, I have nothing against that whatsoever. You know, this industry needs just like fine, competent filmmakers making stuff like this, and Trap's a great example of that. You can see the voice of the filmmaker through every single scene, and even if you can't, you're watching a really cool concert, some actual good music, and you're just watching a dad try to be a good dad, and that's kind of cool to see. That's both on screen and off screen, baby, and that's something that's really awesome. This movie's kind of interesting. I like thinking about it more than I do like thinking about other movies that came out recently. I mean, if you look at the stuff that's kind of sandwiched between this, right? Deadpool Wolverine, Harold and the Purple Crayon, Borderlands. This is at least an idea of a film, you know, as opposed to some of that other stuff I just said. And maybe that alone should give it something. But I also think Shyamalan's okay if this doesn't perform to the highest standards. Like, it's not going to, you know, be 100 million grosser. If it just breaks even, I'm sure he's happy. That's what happened with Cabin in the Woods, or Knock at the Cabin. What was it? Knock at the Cabin, I think. And Old was interesting. So Trap falls into that category. Just make a really cool movie and do something different and just give Hartnett the chance to shine. I like this team. So, Trap, I am going to give an 8 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.